Thanks for staying with us. So World Immunization Day brings together people from around the world to highlight the importance of vaccines and how they protect people of all ages against many diseases, giving us the opportunity to pursue a life well lived. Join us on the show is a medical officer, Health Ifelodun LCD, and Executive Director, Dr. Japhet Olugbogi Foundation. That's Dr. Japhet Olugbogi. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a while.
We haven't seen you since COVID. Looking very chopped up. How you doing?
Thank you very much. I'm very well. And you?
Great, great, great. So let's talk about immunization, especially this season where we're hearing about malaria vaccine coming up very soon. There's been research that's saying that we need to get back to the pre-COVID numbers, because right now it looks as if many people haven't gone back to take their immunizations. Could you give us an update on the data we're looking at right now concerning immunization?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me once again. Pre-COVID era, we had issues with people coming up to take vaccines, but even during COVID and after COVID, the situation has been worse because a lot of people have missed out. A lot of children have missed out on taking their vaccines. A study and the MICS, the Multiple Indicator Cluster Survey, has shown that all over the world, there are over 25 million children who have missed out from taking vaccines from 2019 to 2021, 2022. And that's as a result of the deadly blow that the pandemic dealt the whole world. In Nigeria, we have our own challenge because if you look at that data, 10 countries, including Nigeria, contribute to over 15 million of those children that we're talking about. So we have Nigeria, Angola, and all those countries contributing over 60% of children that have missed out on immunization.
So now that there's a campaign to sort of revive immunization, would there be like an incentive? Because I've spoken to a few parents and I know some of them are still afraid of what immunization means for their children. Some of them are still not educated to understand the benefits of having their child immunized. And I know that the federal government is doing, I see some people with uniforms from time to time going to give different types of vaccine, polio, and all that. But how do we intend to keep educating people, especially in those rural areas, to come out and get vaccinated?
This has been the major challenge in the immunization drive because you see officers like us, officers that we work with, try to go into the communities, into the rural areas, sometimes even on boats to riverine areas where we call hard-to-reach areas to try to vaccinate people. But a lot of people still do not have the awareness that they should have about immunization and vaccination, as it were. The government itself and NGOs and partners like WHO, UNICEF, and AFNet, they try as much as possible to bring out different modalities of these immunization strategies to be able to get to people, to be able to help people, to be able to help us do our job. But we still have a lot of gaps in these strategies or in the communities that prevent people from taking vaccinations. I think one of the things we should be doing is constant education, constant awareness creation, and that should not be only done by the government or by the federal government, although it is the responsibility of the NPCDA, that's the National Primary Health Care Development Agency, to create awareness, to provide logistics, to provide funding, to provide vaccines for the populace of Nigeria. But they cannot do it alone, so the states have to support, the local governments have to support, individuals also have to support, and then government must begin to be creative in a way they create awareness. I've said before that if you find or you bring on board celebrities or people who have a large followership to try to talk to people about the benefits of immunization and vaccination as it were, more people will come forward and take these vaccines. Because there's a lot of doubts in the minds of some mothers, in the minds of some parents as to the benefits of vaccines or as to the side effects that vaccines can give. And that's why you see a lot of people being reluctant or being skeptical about taking the vaccines. Apart from that, there are so many other challenges like poor access to places where they can take vaccines. I know for sure that in some parts of the country, people have to travel more than 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers to get to a health center or a hospital where they can get vaccines in the first place. And sometimes when they get to these places, they have to wait a long time for them to get the vaccines. You can imagine a mother who doesn't have transport fare to take their child or children to the hospital to take the vaccines, having to wait half of the day to be able to vaccinate their children. They will think twice next time they want to go and get their children vaccinated before they go. So all these factors, and then we still have religious and social cultural beliefs as to the use or the effect of vaccines. And this is very, very prime in Nigeria.
But would you say a lot of work has been done really for sensitization? I mean, I know that we always have all these polio vaccines that they actually come to your school, they come to the houses. You know, the government has actually made efforts. So what would be your assessment as regards efforts government has really made to improve this sensitization of people, especially in the rural areas concerning this?
There is no doubt that government has made a lot of efforts and government is making a lot of effort because I, for one, I'm also in the thick of the action as well. I have tons of pictures on my phone of the activities that we carry out, that we have carried out to try and reach people, to try and educate people. But like I said earlier on, the efforts have to be ongoing. The efforts have to be continuous. You know, in health education, there is something we say about reinforcing knowledge, reinforcing what you have taught people. So government needs to continue to reinforce this, and the information has to come directly from government agencies so that people can believe them, so that people can have some form of quotation or some form of respite when they are quoting or when they are talking about where they got their information from. People go into the community. Some of these people that go into the community, they are working directly under officers like me. And we try as much as possible to provide logistics for them. Right. But funding is a major part of the problem because most of the funding for logistics, for vaccines, for implementation, for planning, for training that we carry out are mostly done by partners. I'm talking about WHO and AFNet and UNICEF and all of that. So the government itself needs to take responsibility. And I'm not only talking about the federal government, I'm also talking about the local government local government authorities in the country who have been placed in charge of immunization at the lowest level. So they need to take responsibility as well.
Let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we continue our conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. I had a question.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you, you've highlighted the problems, the opportunities, what the government can do. But I wanted to find out from you, I know there are different types of immunizations, and which would you believe is the most important that we are not getting enough of in Nigeria right now?
Well, all the vaccines are important. We have almost about 20 vaccines in Nigeria, and all of them. And yes, we have almost 20 vaccines in Nigeria, or 21 thereabouts, and they're all important. But if you want to ask me, the most important, I would say that the malaria vaccine, which we are about to commence in Nigeria, is very important because in Nigeria, most deaths are due to malaria. Most deaths in children are due to malaria. And if the vaccine can reduce the deaths to about 50% or 40% or 60%, it's a very good plus for us in this part of the world.
So I would like to know a bit more about the malaria. I don't know if you have all the details, but is it just going to be for children, or would it extend to adults as well, that the vaccine for malaria?
When vaccines are procured and supplied, the government usually prioritizes the vulnerables, the most vulnerable set of people to receive the vaccines. This is for obvious reasons. And then, so because of that, the malaria vaccine has been prioritized for children. Children receive it at 6 weeks, at 10 weeks, at 14 weeks, and they also receive a booster dose at about 18 months, I think. So the ones we're going to have in Nigeria will be prioritized for children who suffer the most from malaria.
Okay, follow up to that. We are still in an malaria endemic continent or region, so to speak. Does this mean that after a child gets that vaccination, follows through till the end, even when the child is exposed to mosquito bites, malaria will not come anymore? Is that what this means?
Yes, what this means is that for every child that takes the full dose of the malaria vaccines, they have at least 40 to 50% chance of not coming down with malaria. That's why I said earlier on that if the vaccine can reduce the burden of malaria amongst these children to at least 40 to 50%, as have been documented in studies, the clinical trial for the malaria vaccine, at least it means that we have a higher chance of reducing the burden of malaria in our country and indeed in our continent. In Ghana right now and Kenya and Malawi, where the vaccines have been previously used or started to be used in Africa, they have a good prognosis of malaria. They also have a markedly reduced burden of malaria amongst children. You will recall that some children can have up to 2 episodes of malaria in a month. That's at least 2 times 12, about 24 episodes in a year. So if a child takes this malaria vaccine and is coming down with malaria once or twice in a year, you will agree with me that that's a lot more improvement compared to the status quo.
One of the issues we've had concerning vaccines is the fact that many of it are widely imported or dependent for international, the World Health Organization or certain countries for donations. And I know that there was a time you came on the show and discussing research within Nigeria to see how we can develop some of these vaccines locally. How is that going? Do you have any updates on how far we are concerning vaccines going forward so that it's cheaper and can penetrate to more communities across the country?
Yes, I think the MPACDA and the NAFDAC are working on the solution to that. I know that Nigeria has been given the mandate, or should I say, the go-ahead to start producing our own vaccines. So I believe the authorities are working on that. I'm quite sure that they are planning on manufacturing vaccines in Nigeria. I don't know when that can take effect, but I'm sure that that is in the pipeline.
Let me come to COVID for a second, because I know that you were very involved with that COVID season. We're hearing some rumors, you know, any small sneeze like this. Why can you say, is it COVID? Every small cough, do you have COVID? Because in our mind, COVID is still very much there with us in Nigeria. Can you give us an update? I mean, how is that going? Do we still have some kind of traces of COVID, or we're totally out of it for now, at least in Nigeria?
I think the right term to use now about COVID is that all over the world, people are coping well with COVID now. COVID is still there, but it is no longer what it used to be. It is no longer as deadly as it used to be. It is no longer a burden as much as it used to be. And all over the world, there is now a COVID vaccine that has been rolled out from place to place, from country to country, So that has kept the burden of COVID at a lower level than before.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Japhet. It was good to see you again because it's been a while.
Yeah.
And well done for the work you're doing at the foundation. Wishing you the best.
Thank you very much for having me once again.
All right, coming back to you guys. So, I mean, I'm happy about the malaria vaccine, thank God, and COVID.
And there are many other immunizations. I really thought it was going to highlight, because there are other ones that you have to pay for but are important. But I know that because there's now hope in the horizon based on we are expecting a malaria vaccine that will be used in Nigeria, that sort of has overshadowed every other.
Also, people don't always understand the gravity of these vaccines because, in our own time, smallpox or chickenpox wasn't really prevalent.
Yes.
Our parents or grandparents knew about it, so they were really happy to take the vaccine when it came. But here it's the malaria that we know. So we are still having to force people to understand you don't want your child to have smallpox. You don't want them to have this monkeypox. These are things that we have vaccines for, but it's still difficult to let people understand the gravity of ensuring.
Especially all the free vaccines.
Yeah, and also following through in the hospitals. So sometimes after checking a few vaccines, some parents don't even show up anymore, they disappear. But you're supposed to make sure that card they give to you in the hospital, you check out, you complete all the immunization.
2 years,
minimum, complete that. Then some schools too take permission, they send consent notes home.
Yeah.
Will you like your child to be vaccinated when these people come to school? So I think we should just keep talking to one another about this.
I think with that we can wrap up the show. Thank you.